Something smart to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
And a happy afternoon to you. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International for Tuesday, April the 23rd, 2024. This is program number 1169 of the Lunchroom, and I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, of course, you can get us at radio on 101.1 FM, but you can also reach us on our website. It is rcistlucia.com. We're streaming live there, and you can also download our previous shows in podcast form on that platform. And don't forget, you also have the option of tuning in on Facebook, and you just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. And of course, be sure to like and share that link, please, with your friends and family. And if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today in the Lunchroom, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also message into our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. You could also call into WhatsApp if you so prefer. And again, it is 724-0008. Now, today we're going to be speaking about the Caribbean community, and we're so very pleased to have in studio a very large contingent from CARICOM, and they're going to be speaking about all things related to the work of the Caribbean community, but of course, no doubt, on some of the more topical matters we've been hearing about, free movement of people and CSME. So we're going to get into that in just a bit. But first, a bit of history for today. In the year 1968, the first decimal coins were issued in Great Britain, with 5 and 10 pence pieces replacing the shilling and 2 shilling pieces. In the year 1984, the AIDS virus was identified as HTLV3, or Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. And in 2013, on this day, West Indian cricketer Chris Gayle smashed the fastest century in history in just 30 balls. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gas and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Joux Grizzly, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. And we do hope that you're having a good day. And of course, probably earlier on, you were taking in the opening of Parliament. The new session of Parliament began today with the throne speech delivered by His Excellency Errol Cyril Charles, and the budget statement being delivered this afternoon as part of the debate on the appropriation bill for 2024-2025. But we're going to leave the local affairs for a little bit and broaden it to the level of the region, and in particular the Caribbean space, and that of CARICOM, the Caribbean community. Been around for a good number of decades now, 1974, I believe, about that. And of course, you would have heard about the Treaty of Chaguaramas and the revisions to that, and the effective implementation of that over the years. And so we're so very pleased to have a delegation, an outreach delegation from the Caribbean community. And of course, first we will start with Mr. Bernard Black. He is the Senior Project Officer, Customs and Trade Policy at the CARICOM Secretariat. We also have Wania Elias, and she's the Deputy Program Manager for Free Movement and Labor at the CARICOM Secretariat based in Guyana and Georgetown, and as well, a local gentleman, but he works for CSME as well, Mr. Philip McLaurin. He is the Senior Technical Coordinator for the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, and the local focal point for Caribbean Single Market and Economy out of the Ministry of External Affairs, Miss Lydia Daria. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us here at the Lunchroom and for sharing your time with us to tell us about what's going on with CARICOM, CSME, and Caribbean integration on a whole. Lydia, let's start off with you. I mean, of course, you are with the Ministry of External Affairs. Why is this important in terms of reaching the community, CARICOM in particular, at this time?
So thank you very much for having us on your program today. So as you're aware, we are conducting a 3-day CSME outreach program, which started yesterday and which will culminate tomorrow. We've been meeting a series of stakeholder groups. Yesterday we met with the public service, we met with permanent secretaries and senior officials. And we actually just had an engagement with the private sector. We met with the Manufacturers Association, Chamber of Commerce, Brokers Association. And later on we'll meet with the schools as well, and non-governmental organizations, civil society groups, you name it. Sensitization on the CSME should be continuous. And we have, in terms of the goods regime, the services regime, the skills regime, or what you would know now as full free movement, including right of establishment, we need to put the message out there so our population can take advantage of the benefits that exist within the region. So the Secretariat is here to support us in our public relations program. And in light of the recent decision of the heads of government, where at their 45th regular meeting, they've made the pronouncement for full free movement, we want to sensitize our population a bit more on that decision and how they can better take advantage of that. So
Definitely, and thanks for doing just that. And of course, that statement for some people might sound like a great thing, and perhaps for others they may have some concerns about it. What has the response been in terms of your interactions with these various stakeholders?
Right. So first of all, they're quite excited about it. They want to know, for example, what kind of skills, for example, for the private sector, what kind of skill set exists in the region. So now I, as a manufacturer, I need some skills in some particular area. How can I get access to persons within that region to bring into my country to help improve my productive capacity?
So what I mean, when you say full free movement, because I mean, we've been hearing about CSME for a little while now, for many, many years. Prime ministers have come and gone, you know, the days of Owen Arthur would come to mind, and there's a lot of talk about CSME. And then we went through a phase where it was perhaps a little bit comatose, not very much discussion, and now we're hearing about this whole issue of CSME again, and now this whole push towards free movement. What is that really? I mean, we've seen some regimes in the past with skill certificates, but is this really going to be full free movement?
So you're right about the skill certificate regime. You would be aware that we can move based on 12 categories. But the decision really is that there's been agreement that certain basic rights would be afforded to all CARICOM nationals that are exercising the right to move freely and remain indefinitely in another member state of a CSME member state. So I would now like to turn on maybe to Miss
Wania. I mean, this is her department.
Yes, she's the
and
expert.
so certainly we'd like to get that sense, Wania. I mean, we're speaking about CARICOM, but the CARICOM of 20 years ago has changed. We've got some significant differences in some of the membership, particularly, of course, it's no longer just an English-speaking club. We've got in Haiti, we've got in Suriname, you know. So what is this going to look like in terms of free movement?
Thank you so much. And St. Lucia, how are you doing? Yes, it's great to be back in St. Lucia and doing some of this work. A couple of quick things. It had always been the goal of the community to allow for total free movement. in our current treaty in Article 45, the goal is captured. So even though it took us a while to get there, the aspiration had always been to create a community where community nationals can move freely. So with including in that goal, in Article 45, the goal, the heads of governments had taken a decision to implement it, but through a phased approach. So Lydia mentioned that there is a skills regime under which 12 skills categories can move, but also persons who are providing a service can do that, as well as those that wish to establish a company in another member state. And those are regimes that are being used. Community nationals have been moving under the skills regime. We have the data. Community nationals have been establishing businesses, and they also have been able to provide their services across border. Though this is a very important decision, earlier on, around 2007, 2008, shortly before the economic crisis, there was a decision already to move towards total free movement around 2010 and 2011, but that was placed on pause because of what was happening in the world. So it took us a while. Things got a little quiet because we had put in place the fundamentals of the CARICOM single market and economy. We had removed the restrictions, so somebody from St. Lucia could now establish a business in Trinidad and Tobago. Somebody from Trinidad and Tobago could provide a service in Suriname being a part of the community, because you did mention that we were able to expand as a community to also include both Haiti and Suriname as non-English speaking members. So think about St. Lucia, for instance. You may be from Fewfort, but you could come to Castries and provide a service at a radio station. So in a CARICOM context, it's the same thing. So you are a radio maker, and there would be no difficulty with you doing the same thing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines or in Barbados, for instance, because you are a CARICOM national. So the label that you now have as a CARICOM national gives you access to the community. And the community in this context is really 14 member states, because the Bahamas is not participating in the economic arrangements. So there has always been this goal of our community to build a community where our community nationals can move. And the decision has been taken in July last year. And the decision really called for us to work towards total free movement by March of this year. And we've done significant work. We haven't reached that end goal yet. Our heads of governments are meeting next week, Thursday, the 3rd of May, to review the protocol, the draft protocol that was drafted. And hopefully at that meeting, a final decision could be taken.
So no set date yet. Well, beyond the fact that we've passed that deadline of March, no set date in terms of when we would like to see this happen?
So no set date on when the protocol would be adopted yet. But it's important to note that the text of the protocol is quote-unquote final. There are one or two areas that member states need to finalize. But there will be a transition period, because member states did indicate we need a little bit of time to put our legislative framework and our administrative framework in place. Some member states are ready. From the get-go, they may be able to say, hey, even though there's a transition period, I am allowing persons to move from this date. So there will be a 3-year transitional period for member states to put in place a legislative, administrative, and institutional framework, and an additional 7 years for member states to put in place all of the additional infrastructure in terms of access to schools, access to healthcare. So there will be transitional period. So we expect to have a period where there is a mixed arrangement in place, where some member states will be allowing total free movement, while others may require a little bit more time.
I mean, so this is a really big deal for a lot of people right now, because right now, given the skills certificate regime, you have perhaps a pretty small proportion of the population can pick up and say, hey, I want to go work in Jamaica or Belize or wherever. But now, this is actually something that anybody can do.
It is a huge deal. It is a huge deal. And that has been recognized as such by not only the community, but also our external partners. Now, I also have to add to say, though, that persons can always move. So even if you're not qualifying under any of the 12 regimes, you can move, but then you have to request a work permit. And we know how the work permit works in member states. Member states tend to use it as a tool to basically limit access to the labor markets. So if you're, for instance, applying for a particular, for instance, working in a daycare, the member state will probably check to see whether there's local expertise in that area, and they may or may not grant the work permit. But with the free movement of skills, once you have your skills certificate, you have the right to be treated as a national of that member state. And that system currently still applies. We have the skills regime in place, and all member states have the infrastructure in place to be able to issue that skills certificate. And in the case of St. Lucia, it's the Ministry of External Affairs that is the issuing authority.
So, in terms of an average person, what's it going to look like, though? I mean, will I be able to travel with, you know?
You can
just
already travel.
Yeah, so you can just move. No, well, if
For work,
your ID card, that's happening already.
So right
it's
now,
just-
as a CARICOM national now, you can already travel and you receive 6 months at point of entry, but you do not have the right to work. So the difference now is because the decision called for free movement for indefinite entry and the right to work. So it's an important distinction. But obviously also within the OECS context, there's already free movement. So some countries in CARICOM are participating in that regime.
Now, you were mentioning some of these allied arrangements that have to be put in place. Things like, let's say, your national insurance,
Right.
and then how is that going to be transferable? So, are those things part of the plan?
So because we had arrangements in place for a limited set of people, because there's a contingent rights protocol, but the contingent rights protocol covered those that had a right to move under the CSME. We'll now have to expand it. In terms of Social Security, there is an agreement already in place. There's the CARICOM agreement on Social Security, which allows for the transferability of Social Security benefits, but that is also an arrangement that we will have to review because it's now a wider set of people that we will be considering.
A lot of people are hearing about this, and then they may also be thinking that sounds very good, but then there's still some significant challenges just about moving around. The logistics of the Caribbean right now is perhaps even more challenging in this post-COVID arrangement. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that, and you know, if there are any movements in that regard. We've heard some pronouncements about possibilities of ferries and arrangements. Where is that at?
Being discussed, I think a very important instrument that was signed a few years ago is the CARICOM Multilateral Air Surface Agreement, which is basically an instrument to basically harmonize the sector of of aviation. And if not all, most member states have signed the Multilateral Air Services Agreement. Most recently, there has been talk about ferry services, and I think the start would have focused probably on Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Guyana, if I'm correct. But based on how that goes, that will be expanded to the rest of the region. So there is a recognition that we need to make it not only more affordable for our community nationals to move, but also more efficient, because in any consultation that we will have, the issue of transportation comes up, not only for persons, but also for goods.
Mr. Black, if to make you join the conversation a little bit, I mean, especially in Guyana, I just want to focus there a little bit because Guyana is, of course, a hot spot in terms of economic growth and activity right now. What's the mood like? Are people in Guyana expecting hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans to come to their shores very soon to help the Guyanese economy? What's the discourse like right now?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the understanding is Guyana's workforce is small. They don't have many people. I mean, the total population is just under 900,000, and the Guyana government was advised that at the point when the oil and gas industry is at its maximum of output, they will need about 2 million people. So the expectation is that people will come to the shores. The expectation also is that from the nearer locations, like the other CARICOM countries, there will be movement of people coming into Guyana, which has already started to happen. Trinidad and Tobago, not being very far away, is also an oil and gas producer, although the activity has been reduced. So initially, a lot of the expertise from Trinidad and Tobago has, in most part, relocated to Guyana already. So to answer your question, yes, there is that expectation of movement.
And of course, you know, we're still pretty insular in some regards in our attitudes. How is that going to be worked out? I mean, the cultural aspects of, dealing with people coming together. How are we working on that?
Well, I think Guyana has experience with the regional integration movement. There is the expectation that the other more populated countries like Jamaica, Belize, where various skill sets are located, will eventually find a way to Guyana. There are recruiting companies in Guyana that are actually looking outwards for that skill set, and those recruiting companies already have the blessings of the government to go ahead and do it. What I understand is happening now, the next level is that some of the recruiting agencies are actually coming to visit the islands to do the recruiting from here, from a distance, so that they could go through the security and other restrictions to get the right people selected for those jobs. So very soon you might see in St. Lucia a recruiting agent setting up an office here to look for that particular skill set. And the skill set really is with mechanical engineering. Some of the persons will be doing work shore side of the rig. So you have the rig operation out at sea, like 100 miles out, and there are people onshore getting things ready to take to the rigs with maybe twice weekly shuttle going between both points, both by boat and helicopter.
I mean, there was once a time that there was a belief that Guyana would become the capital of the entire West Indies and that sort of thing. Are some countries perhaps a little fearful that they, in fact, are going to see some significant brain drain, mass movement away from their shores? I mean, already some countries like Dominica have been struggling with their populations. Is that something that is on the minds of other Caribbean governments?
Well, I think it's there to some extent. The whole issue of migration started to happen many years ago. And Guyana is one of the countries that had a lot of its nationals going to the North American and Europe spaces. It is believed that there are as many Guyanese abroad than there are in the country. All right? But while some countries may be losing people or people potentially wanting to come to Guyana, people in Guyanese in the diaspora are also thinking of coming back home. And it's already starting to happen. They're taking advantage of real estate opportunities. They're bringing back their skills, trying to get employment in some of the growing companies. And the future looks bright in terms of who's going to come back to Guyana. I think one of the concerns would be the whole issue of housing. Housing has been a terrible issue. Traditionally, house rent in Barbados used to be higher than Guyana. Right now, that's the reverse. The Guyanese house rent has hit the sky. So, with all those little social imbalances, I think with time, it is all going to iron out. And Guyana will definitely be the new place to head in CARICOM.
Oh, yes, you wanted to jump in one, I think, to say something. Yeah.
Yes, so quickly, because there is a recognition that there will be shifts in the community. And so where a number of interventions have focused on just that. Two things I'll speak to quickly. The region is currently working on a migration policy, right? There's a particular mandate from heads, and so work is ongoing. And as part of that migration policy, we're also looking to do a labor migration policy. We tend not to speak of our own nationals as migrants because this is one market. We tend not to use that phrase, but we will be looking at trends within the community itself. And then we're also trying to set up what we call a labor market information system, because that will tell us exactly where there are gaps in particular markets. But for all of this to happen, of course, there needs to be an external framework to make sure that persons can move, that businesses do well, that we could trade our goods. Bernard is our person that deals with trade in goods. But there also need to be a support framework that deals with issues such as government procurement, competition policy, consumer protection. And our colleague Philip is dealing with some of those issues. And we need to understand that for the 5 regimes to work efficiently, we need to ensure that there is a support framework in place. And perhaps Philip could share some of that.
Please. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. So as you deal with these matters, you must never forget the internal market. The internal market is extremely important. So in order to support the other policy frameworks of government, or in fact of the region, you need to ensure, as you expand the economy, you mentioned Guyana and what is happening in Guyana with this revolution, you may say, and it may, of course, affect other member states, maybe Suriname tomorrow and other countries. What we recognize in the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, you have established in Chapter 8 the provision for competition law and policy. It's not about stopping competition, but as companies invest in different markets within the community, you also need to ensure that you have the environment to ensure that they do not take advantage of what is happening in the marketplace. And it is what you call the rules of competition. You don't want them to come there to lessen competition. You have monopolies, you have duopolies, you may also have a dominant player in the market. And what has been happening over the past few years, there are at least 3 initiatives. The first one is how do you because when the treaty was drafted, the revised treaty in Chapter 8, no provision was made for mergers and acquisition in terms of, from the point of view of cross-border mergers. Some member states who have established competition commissions, like the likes of Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, in their law, they have included provisions for mergers and acquisition. How do you review a merger? We say ex ante, or before it is consummated, and don't allow it to happen, and then you have structural problems and difficulties. So what we are doing right now at the committee level is to work on a mergers policy, and most member states, as we speak, they have agreed or they have approved a mergers policy, but we need a few more, at least 1 or 2 more, at least 10. We have at this time 9, 10 to really get the policy beyond the policy stage, to the level of the policy being now drafted into regulations, so that those regulations will ensure that you now include in your revised treaty provisions for mergers and acquisition. So that work is well ahead. We are hoping that at the next quarter, if we have another member state, we can take that to the next level. The other thing we are doing is that the dual rule, in fact, we are at the point of the dual rule of the, how do you, because there are some members that have not established commissions or commission authorities. And we know that each of they may have the challenges. But it has been something in the work since 2006. And I recall being on a task force, CSME task force, to advance full competition in the community. So that work at this time is that how do we, St. Lucia, for example, St. Lucia has not established competition laws and regulations. St. Lucia has not established a competition committee, a competition authority. And so St. Lucia and the OECs in particular, you need to get them on board. That work was way advanced. At some point you had drafting of documents and frameworks for an OECS competition commission to serve as a national authority for each OECS member country. But again, at some point, they had to go back to the table. And that is affecting the way the market is supposed to work. You're expanding the market, investment is coming, companies are coming. You need to ensure that you are in a position to review mergers, to deal with anti-competitive behavior like abuse of dominance or other things that can happen in the market, price fixing, and so on and so forth, so that you ensure that the benefits to be derived from a full CSME is not frustrated by anti-competitive business conduct. And people like you, colleagues, could actually put the word out there so that the other member states that have not done so can actually take the leap in terms of ensuring that you can protect your consumers. I mean, the last decision coming out of the conference was for those member states that have not established competition commissions or considering the dual role of the CCC to inform of their active plans and how they intend to do so as soon as possible. So as you know, as soon as possible can be today, tomorrow, but they have to at least come back to the Secretariat with regards to how do we move competition. Now, government procurement is another area. I think the last time I was here, we had a fulsome discussion on that. But I'll leave it for now because I know time is of the essence. But there are a lot of things we need to put in place as a community to support free movement, to support other areas of the community in advancing a community that works not for only a few, a community that works for all at this time. Yeah.
Please, Mr. Black.
Thank you. I just want to mention, Mr. George, the issue of what we're doing as it relates to what goods are being produced in the region. You heard from my colleagues that there's a lot of expansion of business. We need to ensure that the space is one of equity and all that. But I'll just focus more on what we're actually producing. So the CPSO, the CARICOM Public Sector Organization, they have estimated that CARICOM has at least 1,000 companies that produce goods of a regional nature, that is, goods that qualify for CARICOM origin. But that amount of that information is not concentrated anywhere. So we've developed a portal called the CARICOM Interactive Marketplace and Suspension Procedure, SIMSUPRO for short, which in part will be like a marketplace, something like say eBay or Amazon, where all companies in CARICOM that produce something, whether it's for local consumption or for regional supply, can register their goods on this portal. And it is also a meeting place where people looking for goods can also go and find them.
Is it strictly goods or you
Goods.
can't services?
No, we don't have a services equivalent as yet.
Mhm.
We're working on that, but we're ready for the goods one. So essentially, a person looking for, so if you're looking for shoes, if you like shoes of CARICOM origin, looking for say leather sandals, you can go on this portal and type in footwear, sandals, or shoes, or you could use the tariff code 6402 or 6401. It will pull up all the producers of shoes and sandals in CARICOM, just like that. And so you have an opportunity right there to make contact with them and to do business. The Simsu Pro in its early form does not have an e-commerce variant, so you can't proceed to pay to make a payment. That is coming. We're going to go in that direction. In fact, we have a protocol for e-commerce that Wanya's office is working on. So as soon as that is approved, it will be applied to the Simsu Pro as well. So we are hoping that member states encourage their traders. Lydia, she being the focal point for St. Lucia, that's her job, to get that message out there. And the other focal points in the other member states will be doing that as well, to get the companies to register on the Simsu Pro. So that is one of the exciting developments that's happening. The trade officials like it, the trade ministers like it, and so we're hoping that by the end of this year, the Simsu Pro would have all companies registered and all persons. And like my friend says, you would help spread the word about the Simsu Pro to the St. Lucia public.
One of the things people have been hearing quite a bit about in terms of raw goods, so to speak, 25 by 25, that call for food security, producing more locally.
Yeah.
Are we getting there? I mean, 2025 is not too far away. Realistic progress, is it?
I think so. At the recent meeting of our heads of governments, member states needed to present their own report because each member state is working on this set of goods that they wish to push. And I think St. Lucia has also complied with providing the data. And I think progress is made. Will we get it by 25? It's hard to say. But I think we will be able to at least be further down the road than we were a couple of years ago. Because when we looked at our import food bill, it
keeps on rising.
It was significantly high. And so as a region, there was a recognition that we can do better. We can produce more. And so this is basically a drive to ensure that we could be a little bit more self-reliant on what we produce and also be able to buy from each other in that regard as well.
Just two more questions from me. I mean, we're still tight on time. But expansion of membership. I think we did hear, I mean, you were talking about mergers for companies, but in terms of the actual member states, I think there was a mention recently that the Dominican Republic, I think, is interested in becoming is it a full member? What's the situation with that? And is there possibility for other countries within the Caribbean region to come on board?
Well, the last head meeting you had certain that was a subject matter, but in terms of the DR, it had to do with associate member. But what we know right now as I speak in terms of a full member of CARICOM is Bermuda, and not too long ago they had a letter of entrustment from the UK government to begin to negotiate with the CARICOM, the community, in terms of moving in the direction of full member. There may be, we don't know what the negotiations will, at the end, what will be the outcome of what will they accept and so on. But as you know, it is still similar to Montserrat, being an overseas British territory. So, but we have sight of the letter of entrustment from the UK government to give them the right to begin to discuss with the secretary, with the CARICOM, the issue of membership.
Mm. And of course, another matter is that of currency, money. And not too long ago, I think we heard from a former central bank governor, Barbados, Delay Worrell, in fact, opining that Caribbean countries should do away completely with their currencies and just use the US dollar. I mean, we've heard of proposals in the past to actually have a single currency. Is there any sort of discussion at all? Is that something that's not on the horizon for consideration?
I think I could say that it is not necessarily a priority, and I'm not saying that it is not recognized as being important. We have different we have floating, we have managed currencies in the region, so as such it will not necessarily be easy, but there has been a recognition for the region to be able to have one currency. We see it in a part of the region, the OECS, that they have one currency and it works well. They have one central bank who is basically governing and regulating all of the relevant regulations in that regard. There was a time back in 2008, 2009 when clear policies were developed in that regard. But at that point in time, it was also seen as something that was not feasible for the community to do. But perhaps it will come up again. I think if we're widening up, if we're opening up in terms of free movement of persons, it will have to be part of the discussion to see how we move as a region in ensuring that we have a common currency. But it is one of the things, as well as transportation, that always comes up in consultations that we have with the public.
Certainly.
But just to add, a compelling reason why we should consider a single currency is because in every member of CARICOM where there is a currency, there's also a stock exchange. Now, a stock exchange is a place where equity is made available to local companies to expand their businesses. At present, because I did some studies on that some years ago, there's no stock exchange right now that has huge amounts of trading volumes on a daily basis. They're all trading small amounts. So the wisdom is, why not everybody trade on one platform? And what makes the key to that single platform is a single currency. Whether it's a US dollar or Caribbean dollar, or we agree to adopt the Bajan dollar, whatever currency, it has to be a single one. And that would give credence to our stock exchange. We have people living in the diaspora who have substantial savings, who can assist us. We have one or two of our central banks who have huge amounts of cash reserves that could support that stock exchange. So we need to think into the future that way and let go of this love for one currency as against another. Because we really have to get out there and make ourselves, bring ourselves more in line with what's happening internationally.
As you mentioned that, I mean, I know we have these meetings of heads every 6 months or so, and ministers. But at that other levels, though, let's say central bank governors, are they meeting on a regular basis? Are we seeing stock exchange managers meeting on a regular basis? So a lot of other institutions across CARICOM. Is that interaction sufficient right now?
I don't think it's sufficient because the central banks work in tandem with their local authorities, the ministries of finance and the prime minister, who's usually the minister responsible for that. But there ought to be more of that happening, so that opportunities could be streamlined, so that we can see the benefits for the region and not just one country in particular.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been very, very interesting, but we're running out of time already. But any parting thoughts, though, as we continue to hopefully see a lot more of CARICOM in the coming weeks and months ahead? Lydia, I think you will take it for
Yes. So to continue this engagement, we actually have a focal points meeting on Thursday and Friday of this week, where focal points from the other CSME participating member states will be in St. Lucia, and we'll be taking stock of our implementation progress or not. So that's important in terms of putting the message out there for CSME. And for us at the ministry, we just want to remind the population that if you want more information on CSME, you can reach out to us at the Ministry of External Affairs, myself, Lydia Daria. And we have the Skills National Regime that's still in effect. We have persons applying for the skills certificate. So I can mention that as one of the successes of CSME. Sometimes is it working? Is it not? Where are we? So I would say that the skills regime is working. The Ministry of Commerce also processes right of establishment where you can come to establish a business in St. Lucia So we have data on persons coming to establish a business. So I'll mention that as some of the other successes of CSME. As it relates to full free movement, we continue to participate in the dialogue to develop the legislative framework, and the whole point of decentralization, as I said, to put the message out there so our people can take better advantage of the opportunities that exist. Our young people can go to Trinidad to work, and we can then get skills from the other region to help us build our productive capacity here. So we just want to thank the CARICOM Secretariat for supporting St. Lucia on this initiative. We were the first member state that they hosting this mission, and we'll also be having other subsequent missions, even one for more the private sector, looking at our manufacturers and how to put their goods on the SimSupro online portal. So there's a lot of work going on, and you'll be hearing more from us.
Most definitely.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful. Thanks.
Yes.
Mr. McLaurin?
Actually, we ended 2 days of discussion here on Friday last week. That is the second it was the second meeting of the Permanent Joint Council on Public Procurement. The Permanent Joint Council is now established under the Protocol on Public Procurement, and we have set a work program for the next 2 years, 2024 to 2026. And among some of the things we're looking at to advance public procurement is the integration of e-procurement platforms, because a number of member states now are going fully procurement. So maybe when that is established, you don't have to run to a ministry and drop your envelope before 4:30. You can do that online now. So some of the member states are not now, but in the process, because we have established a regional platform, notice board for public procurement, and so we try with sincere help getting support from the World Bank and the CDB, LDB as well. Some of them are moving into fully procurement. So that was one of the discussions at the World Bank present and CDB. And one of the things we want to do as well is to really certify public procurement officials. And that is to the level of maybe master's degree. If you are a trade expert, you may have done international trade at the master's level. We are working with the World Bank and the CDB to see we can have a regional certification program with one of the universities. That's part of the work program, and they came to the discussion and said, they can look at it as well. So the work in progress program is in place, and we are also working towards cooperation among competition commissions and sector regulators. So we have a lot of work done already in terms of the instruments. We are in consultative stage at this moment.
Thank you so very much, Mr. McLaurin. And just like 2 seconds if you want to say anything else, because we're already over time for our weather report. But if that's good, thank you so very much, Mr. Philip McLaurin, Wanya Elis, Lydia Daria, and Mr. Bernard Black, all representing the CARICOM Secretariat CSME family. And we do hope that we can hear from you guys soon enough once again. So have a great one, and we'll see you in just a bit.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, take care. And we're going to take in our weather report and then switch gears very quickly to talk about May Day with the Labor Department.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Boss, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Ju Grosile, and Slack Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's It's all an island style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And thanks for that. Now, of course, lots going on. Next week, we're going to be marking Labor Day on May 1st, or International Workers' Day, as it's properly known. And to tell us a bit about what's happening with that special holiday and that celebration to mark the occasion, I'm so pleased that we're joined by St. Lucia's Labour Commissioner, Mr. Joseph. First time on the program, sir. Welcome to the Lunchroom.
Thank you very much, Mr. George.
Now, May 1st, it's been a holiday in St. Lucia for a very long time, and we've seen how it has been a major event and it's ebbed somewhat, and I know there are efforts to try to revive it as a day of coming together, especially for unions and workers around St. Lucia. What's going to happen next week?
Right. So we have a committee that is in place, a committee with representatives from the Department of Labor, from the trade unions, as well as the Employers Federation. All right, and this committee has put together a week of activities leading up to Labor Day. Yesterday we had the luncheon of Labor Day. Today we have this brief program with Mr. Judge. Tomorrow we expected to be on another radio station, on Thursday as well. Mm-hmm. And on Friday we have our fair where we invite everybody. The biggest event is actually Wednesday next week, Labor Day, where we have the rally.
And where's the rally going to be this year? Okay, I understand it's, is it Serenity Park?
Serenity Park, correct.
Okay, wonderful. And no longer indoors. I notice you're actually going back outside. You're bringing it out into the public light.
Very much so. All right, there's the Prime Minister, of course, requested that we have a bigger rally, and we are all in support of that.
Wonderful. And what do we expect from the rally in terms of starting time and what the events? What's going to be happening?
Right. So we have we start at 10 o'clock, God's willing, and we have a program of activities. We'll have speeches delivered by various officials, including the Prime Minister, the Minister of Labor, the various heads of the trade unions. We will have some performances by some Calypsonians, Her Black, and a few others. And basically, it's a day to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you did mention that the Prime Minister is going to be there. I know one of the matters that has been very topical over the past couple of years is the matter of the minimum wage. And I understand some progress is being made in this regard and looking at that issue.
Yes, very much so. In fact, from the perspective of the Labor Department, and I'm sure a number of workers in St. Lucia, we view that piece of legislation as one of the greatest pieces of legislation for 2024. We have a minimum wage committee established. They've been doing quite a bit of work. All right, they've made at least 2 presentations to the Cabinet of Ministers, and work is ongoing in that regard. And one of the critical things about this year's theme, which is social justice and decent work for all, one of the critical areas about decent work is a fair wage. And I think it is a very positive thing on behalf of the government of the day to have initiated it.
Okay, so hopefully we can hear something about it. I think it was even mentioned today in the throne speech as well by the acting Governor General. And you did, of course, mention fairness. What is the theme for this year's Workers' Day?
Right, so the theme is social justice and decent work for all.
Okay, wonderful. And so we've been speaking with the St. Lucia's Labour Commissioner. He is Mr. Joseph, and telling us about the upcoming event being put on in collaboration with the Labour Department as well as the various unions That is happening this coming Labor Day on Wednesday, the 1st of May at Serenity Park. And it's going to be an outdoor rally, and with, of course, the usual pomp and practice of those types of events. Now, before we end, though, did we say the time? I'm not sure that we
Yes,
actually...
we start at 10 a.m. in the morning.
At 10 a.m. And how long is that event going to be looking like?
Most of the day, we will want to go right through the day.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I noticed over the years, though, there's been a challenge to bring out members of the unions. We seem to see we have unions on paper, quite a large number of members, but in terms of actually participating on the day, it's been a bit of a challenge, hasn't it?
It has been, and as a matter of fact, I want to use this opportunity to make a special appeal to the public, workers on the whole, to come out. It's your day. It's your day to be recognized. It's your day to celebrate. So I am appealing to the general public to come out and celebrate.
Well, it's certainly not just a day to go to the beach, although I'm sure some people wanted to enjoy their day off as well. But we do hope that individuals do take on this appeal regarding International Workers' Day, May 1st. I know a lot of stuff is going on that time, so hopefully individuals will be sufficiently refreshed from the launch of jazz that's happening the day before, and will make that effort to come out and participate in the event happening from 10 o'clock at Serenity Park on the 1st of May. Any parting words from you, sir?
Well, I want to, like I said, encourage people to come out. It is that special day. It is that day to recognize the contributions of workers. And as I have said in previous remarks, when we speak about workers, we do not only speak about, the clerks and the officers, but a lot of people in management are in fact workers. So we're speaking to everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Mr. Joseph, St. Lucia's Labour Commissioner, for giving us this sense as to that upcoming International Workers' Day, Labour Day 2024, about social justice and fairness for all, I think you said. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so very much, of course, for all those who have been following the program for today. And in a little while, as at 5 o'clock this afternoon, if you're so interested, there's actually going to be the presentation of the budget for 2024-2025 by the Honorable Prime Minister. So that'll be carried, no doubt, by many different stations and broadcasts, including NTN. So thanks very much for listening, and we're back again tomorrow for another program of the Lunchroom. And of course, thanks to all my guests today, CARICOM Secretariat and CSME and Ministry of External Affairs for coming in earlier on, and Mr. Joseph from the St. Lucia Labour Department within the Government of St. Lucia for telling us about the upcoming Labour Day 2024 next week. Have a good one.